So you're welcome to today's class, and in this class, we're going to talk about lists in Python. This is very important, lists and dictionary, but today we're talking about lists in Python. And I titled this lecture today, List in Python Made Easy. That means it is not as difficult as you think. You can work easily with lists, and you can create lists, you can access lists and element in a list, and you can also remove and you can add different elements, okay, into a list. Well, the first thing I want you to understand is that lists are used to store multiple items in a single variable. That means you can store more than one elements, okay, or items in a single variable. So we are going to start by creating a list. So we're going to create a list of cars. So list of cars. And if you want to create a list, please take note of this. It has to be in a square bracket. Take note of that. It is very, very important that you note that. So it's not going to be in a square bracket. So now what are we going to have as the element in our list? So we said we want to create a list of cars. So let's just think about some of those beautiful cars out there. So the first one, let's say you have the Audi. Oh, I know some people will say, Audi, is it that beautiful? Yeah, sure. Then you have the second element. Let's say you have the Toyota. And the third element in the list or items, it doesn't matter, anything, you can call it items or elements. And the list, let's say you have your BMW. You have the BMW, and you have the fourth element on your list. Let's say that is your Seat. Okay, and the fifth element in your list, you have your Fiat. And the sixth element on your list, let's assume you have your Polo. All right. So there are many cars there out there. Okay, so we're just taking just only 6 elements first. So you can see that like I said, if you create a list, ensure that it's in a square bracket. Okay. So now if we run this line of code, so everything here is stored in the car. So the car is a variable that stores the elements in the list. All right. So if I now run car here, see arrow, and I run this, sorry, let me first of all run it again, and I run car. Okay, I can see why it's not running. So please take note of that because I didn't change it to code here. So I run my car, so it's going to run properly. So everything is stored in a single variable called car. So the next thing I'm going to do is that this is just a list of cars. So we can also create a list of numbers. For example, I want to create a list of numbers or names. Okay, let me start with names. I can say list of names, and I can say, for example, you have the first one, let's say you have Dave, and the second one, let's assume you have, let's say you have, so the second person, you have John. Okay, and the third person, let's say you have Jane. And the fourth person, you have Peter. And the fifth person, let's assume you have Astrid. All right, so these are just a list of names, and once you run that, so you see that it is properly saved in your variable names. And so if I run my variable names, you see that it's going to display also the elements in the list. All right, so that is that, just creating the list of cars and list of names. So you can also create list of numbers, okay? And you can, let's just do that because since all these are text, okay, let's just create just one more list of numbers. So we're going to create list of even numbers. Okay. So let's say even numbers, underscore, let me just put numbers. Okay. And you create your list of even numbers, and even numbers are 2, 4, 6. All right. 2, 4, 6, 8. And so these are even numbers between 0 and 10. All right, and where 10 is inclusive. So these are all even numbers. So once you run that, so you see that when I created the even numbers, please, there is no, I didn't put what they call the quotation marks there. So because these are numeric, so you don't need the quotation mark for that. So you just run, and then you have your even numbers. So once I add a new cell, I run this line now, this code and the even numbers. So I'm going to see that I have my even numbers there. So now let's look at this carefully. So we want to access all the elements in the car list, but I want you to understand that in a list, the elements here, they are, or the elements in the list, they are index based. So what I mean by that is this: the first element in the list is at index 0. The second element in the list is at index 1. The third element in the list is at index 2. And the fourth element in the list is at index 3, then index 4, and index 5. So if we want to access this element in the list, so looking at the car, let me bring it down so that you can see properly. So I write a car again. All right. So these are the elements, these are the items in the list. So now you want to access the element, the first element. So it's going to be your car. And the first element is at index 0. So once you run this line of code, you are going to get Audi. All right. So, and if you want to get, if you want to display the last element in the list, which is Polo, like I said, since it is index based, it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's going to be CA arrow at the index of 5. So, and if you run the line of code, you're going to get your Polo. So, and I call these actually what you call the positive indexing, because actually it goes from 0 and just upward. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have 100 elements in the list, so you're just going to assess the elements by their index. Okay. So after that, let's look at also the negative indexing, because since we have the positive indexing, we also have the negative indexing. That means you can access this element, based on the negative indexing. So when you look at the negative indexing, the last element, so you take it from the right-hand side, it makes more sense. So the last element, which is the Polo, or the last item here, is at index of -1. All right. But in the case of positive index, remember here was 0. But in the case of negative index, here it's at index of -1, the Polo. So you can see that if I want to display Polo from the list, so if I'm using the negative indexing, all right, let me call it negative indexing, all right. So once I do that, you'll see that the Polo is at index of -1. All right, -1. You see what is going to happen if I run the line of code. That is going to give me Polo. So that means if this is -1, this is going to be -2. This is going to be -3. This is going to be -4 and -5 and -6. So you see how we are able to assess the element in the list. So let's look at index of -6, and let's see what is going to be displayed at the index of -6. So cars at index of -6. Okay, so at the index of -6, Audi is displayed. Okay, like I said, here is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. So you can also access a list based on, a range. Like now here, this is at index of 0, 1, and 2. So I can take a range, you know, from maybe from 0 to 2 or from 0 to 3. So if I want to access the list, now I want to access it based on range basis, okay? So I can say your car. So I'm looking at from 1 to, let me say, to 4. Okay, so you know this is at index 0, at index 1. So it's going to take this first. There's going to be the first one at index 2, at index 3, and at index 4. But one thing that you have to understand here is this. When you slice it like this, okay, you can also call it slicing because you're trying to slice, you're trying to look at a range. So if you run this code, you see that there's something very unique. You know, like I said, this is at index 1, which is the first one, and at index 2, which is BMW, at index 3, which is Seat. But you see that at index 4 is not being displayed. So that's how a list function, it does not display the last element, okay, the last index, so to say. Is always the when you have a for example, from 1 to 4, it does not display the last the fourth element, okay, in the list in that case. So it takes that range and it starts from 1, and then it will just end at the third, you know, at the third index. Okay, so that's what happens. And so that's why you have 0, 1, 2, 3. And so you have, it stops here. So you can also try another one. Let's say, for example, you have, let's take from index 2 to index 6. So you have your cars, all right, at index 2 to index 6. And you see that it's going to start from 2, but it will not take the 6th position, all right. So when you run that, you see that you have index 2 is BMW, 3, 4, and 5. So you see that the last one is always omitted once you run it like this, once you slice. Okay, so you can also look at the negative indexing. All right, I think it will be better for me to bring down the car again, the list, so that you can see it properly. So I'll just run the list. Then in the case of slicing with the negative, you know, indexing, you can, what happened is this one is at index of -1. So you can take it like car. All right. So, and we want to take from maybe Toyota to Fiat. All right. So don't forget, it doesn't always take the last index, okay, that is represented in the slicing. So if I want to take, here is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So let me say from -5, you're going to take it now -5 to -1. You know, -5 is smaller than -1. So you're not taking it from -1 to -5. If you try like that, you see that it will not work. Okay, -5 to -1. So if you run this line of code, you see that you're going to get -5, -4, -3, -2, all right? And you see that the last one, the -1, is not taken, you understand? And you can also try it. You see that if you say, you want to take it other way, or the other way around, but don't forget that -5 is smaller than -1. So you start from the lower to the highest, okay? So we can also change the elements in a list. Now that we have dealt with lists and how to slice and how to access the element in a list. So let's look at how to change the element in a list. For example, you want to change this element in position 0 from Audi. You know, we know this is our list. Let me get it back. This is our list. And we want to change Audi to what kind of car we're going to think about. What kind of car do you have there? All right, so let's just change Audi to Mercedes. How can we say Mercedes? Or yeah, okay, let's look like, you know, let's just, sometimes, you know, all these cars, the names just escape you, and but there are many cars out there. Okay, so now let's take our Audi, we're going to change it to Kia. Yeah, I just like short words, okay? So, and we know that Audi is at position 0. Okay, you see, at index 0. And we want to change what is at index 0. We want to change it to to Kia. All right. So if you run this line of code, you see that what is at in position index of 0, it will change to Kia. So now if you run this car, you see that you don't have Audi there anymore, but you now have Kia. So you see that you can change the index, okay, of you can change the cars, okay, based on their index. So if, for example, I want to change that of BMW, we know that BMW is at 0, 1, 2, is at the index of 2. So at index of 2, so we want to change the BMW. We want to change it to Dacia, all right, and or Dacia. So the ICIA. Okay, so we want to change that, and if you want to change it, just write your car and then the index of the element, or yeah, and then you now you assign Dacia to that, and so if you run it, you're going to get Dacia or Dacia, okay, at the position of it takes the position of BMW. So you see that BMW is no longer there and Audi is no longer there. So that is the way to change list items. So you can change list items. These are just the simple ways, okay? So you can also add list items, okay? If in case you want to add some items to your list. So what you do is this. For example, I want to bring back my my Audi, and I also want to bring back my BMW, because now in my car list, you can see that in my car list, you don't really have BMW anymore and you don't have Audi anymore. So I can add to my list. If I want to add to my list, there are various ways to do that. Actually, you can use the append. You can also insert to your list, and you can also extend to your list. So we are going to explore these three different methods that are available for us to use. And so like I said, we can use the append method to add to our list. So to append, for example, Audi to our list, like I said, look at our new list, element in the list, you see that there's no Audi there and there's no BMW. So we want to append Audi. So I'll write your car dot, you use the append method. All right, and now we want to append Audi. So, but look at what happens. Once you append to a list, you see that the element is going to go to the last position of the list. You know, by default, it goes to the last position of the list. So that is when you append, okay, to your list, to your list, yeah. So the next one we're going to do, so you can append, please understand that you can also add one or more elements, you know, at a time in a list, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. Okay. So the next one is that you're going to look at how to also, you can use the insert method to do that. So for example, now we want to insert our BMW. I can say car dot insert. So if you don't understand how the insert works, you can press your shift button and your tab, okay, on your keyboard. So if you press that, you see that it can tell you how your insert works. So the index where you want to insert the element, okay, in the list. So at index, we want to insert it at maybe at index 2, okay. And what do we want to insert? We want to insert a BMW. BMW. Okay, so in this case now, you click on it and you see that we've already inserted it. So it's working fine if you run the code. And then once you run your car, you see that BMW, sorry, I wrote it in capital letter, it's fine. Don't worry about that. Okay, but I can just also change it so that, let me just say BMW. All right. set position 2. So maybe if I run it again, it might just it might insert it again because they are two different words now. So let me just leave it at BMW. Okay, so I hope that is clear. So we've learned how to add lists items. So it's quite simple, and you can also add, for example, we want to add more items at a time. So you have, for example, you want to add car dot, let's say you want to append at a time. Okay, you want to append more than one car at a time. So let's look at the cars we're going to append at this time. What kind of car do we have that we need to append? Can somebody just tell me one car that you know that's very popular? Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember one. Volvo, that's a Swedish car. And so we're going to append Volvo, and also let's append Ford. Ford is also a good car. Okay, so now if you append this and you run the line of code, and you see that there is there is an error. It said it is not. Now listen carefully. This is very important that you understand this error message. Okay, so you can see the error. So actually the reason for this error is because I didn't put because append is a method. I didn't put my open bracket and close bracket. So now, because I have two elements I'm appending at the same time, so I have to put them inside a list. So now if you run this line of code, you see that everything is fine. But look at what is going to happen. This is very, very important. So if you append, after appending, and you now run your car, you see that it's going to append both of them, you know, as a list, okay, inside a list. So if you want to see it properly, let me see. If I put print so that let's put print and let's examine it properly. All right, fine. So now it gives you, so you can have a clear view of it, that you see that it is appended at the end. But actually, we wanted them to be separate. That's the intention of, appending this. Now, wanted them to be separate, but it's not really separate. So it's appended as a list. So to solve that problem, you have to use what you call the extend. Okay? Extend is going to solve the problem. So what you're going to do is this. We're still going to append, we're going to still add the same list of cars. Okay, this Volvo and Ford. All right. But look at it now. At this time, we're going to use extend method. So you say car dot extend. All right. And then we're going to copy this here, and we're going to put it inside this method. All right. So if you use extend, look at what is going to happen, and you run it. Fine, everything is fine. And then let's create a new cell, and you run your car. So you see that the new cars, you see, they've been added, but they've been added separately, your Volvo and your Ford. So let's see if we can see it, properly, like just if I write print, and let's see what is going to happen. All right, so you can understand that now Volvo and Ford, they've been added to the list. By using the extend, you see that they are separate, okay? But unlike this case, when I appended more than one item, is going to be in the form of a list. Now it's like a list inside a list, okay? All right, fine. So we're going to start removing items now from a list, and let's look at how to remove items from the list. So to remove items from the list, it is quite easy. So the first thing we want to do is that we can just take the items that we want to remove by using the remove method. So you can say your car.remove, okay? And we want to use the remove method to remove the item. So what item do we want to remove? Let's assume we want to remove BMW. So I'm going to remove my BMW. So, and once I put my BMW, so if once I run that, so it has been removed. If I run my car again, you'll see that my BMW is no longer there. Okay, I can also put print, and let's see it properly. Sometimes you want to see it so in a straight line. All right, so you see that my BMW is no longer there. Okay, so that's one way to remove an item from a list. So you can also use what you call the pop method. So the pop method, look, and if I say my car dot pop, so if you click on your shift and tab, so it will tell you what the pop does. So at what index, do you want to remove your item? At what item do you want to remove? So it's going to be index based. So if I say I want to remove the item at index 012, index 2, so I remove the item at index 2, and so if you run that, you see that dasher or dasher has been removed. So, and if you run the car now, you see that there is no dasher or dasher anymore. So that gives you an insight on how to remove elements in a list. And so you see that dasher is not there anymore. So the next one we're going to do is that we're going to see, you can also remove more than, you can also remove more than one element, okay, in a list. And it's just a matter of you putting all the elements together, and then you can remove them in a list. You can use the pop to do that. So for example, I want to remove these elements in the list. So, and I know the index, okay, and I know that this is at index of 0, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, now we're here now, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's at index 6, so I'm going to remove that. So I'm going to say car dot pop at index of 6. So, and sorry, my car is not correct. So your car. All right, so it removes this, your Volvo and your Ford, because it's together, they're together there in the list. So that is a way to also remove that. So you see that I removed them, pop removed them based on the index. So the last one we're going to look at is also the delete. So you can also use the delete to remove an element. So if you use the delete function or the delete method, so you can say your delete del, all right, car, and at index of, let's say at index of 0, because now let's see what we have first in the car, the elements we have in the car. So if you run this carefully, so let's remove the element at index of 0. So if you want to delete 0, all right, fine. So everything works out fine. And then let's look at what you have now in the car. So you see that KI is no longer there. So we've been able to remove some of the elements, okay, by using the 4 methods, the pop, the remove, and the delete. And yeah, so those 3 methods we've used so far to remove elements in a list. So I think this is enough for today. So I've been able to walk you through the creating a list, and we also looked at assessing elements in a list and how to change list items and how to add items to a list and how to remove items from a list. So the last one here is just that we want to look at the length of the list that is left now. So we look at what we call the LEN, which is, it tells you about the length of the list. So the number of elements in the list. So you have 7 elements now left in the list, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you have 7 elements left in the list. So please, if you love this video and you are satisfied with what we're doing, I want you to just subscribe to this channel and also just click on the notification button or bell. So thank you very much. And we hope to upload more videos for you to watch in the future. And you can also check our other videos that we have on this channel. So I wish you a very good time and keep on practicing. And one day you'll become better and better and better.